All right, Shalom.
Shalom.
We want to start out by giving all praise, honor, and glory to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash.
double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And Shalom to the Akim out there pushing the word of sincerity and the truth. It's the brothers here from Great Millstone, Atlanta. And we're in Atlanta at the Atlantic Station in Atlanta, Georgia. And you see right behind us, we have the Ark. The Ark in Atlanta at the Atlantic Station, which is, when you go into the history and the origins of this Ark, it goes back to the Roman Ark, the Ark of Titus. All right, you have, the museum, which is right behind us also. And we were just now talking to one of the, the representatives, so to speak, of the museum, and he was basically going through a little bit of history, Georgia history and the wars that took place in the indentured servants that were sent to Europe, sent from Europe to America to till the land and to work to basically pay off their debt. But that's not the only thing that America or Atlanta, Georgia was built on. It was built on slaves. All right, it was built on the backs of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And this Ark, of course, when you go into the origins of the Roman Ark, that commemorates the fall of the Israelites. All right, you have the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD, where you had millions of Israelites, if not hundreds of thousands of Israelites that died at that siege. All right, you had the different wars in Jerusalem, and you had Titus, the son of Vespasian. All right, they actually sieged Jerusalem, and majority of those Israelites fell and died at that siege. And you had, if I'm not mistaken, his brother was Domitian. He's the one that actually established and created that Ark, the Ark of Titus. And later on in history, lo and behold, they set an Ark up in America, because this is nothing more than new Rome all over again. The deadly wound being healed in Revelation when you read it. Brother, got something though?
This is Romans chapter 19, verse 41. This Yahweh shall prophesying about the siege of Jerusalem. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, if thou hast known, even thou, at least in thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thy eyes. For the days shall come upon thee that thy enemies shall cast a trench about thee. And what does the word trench go into? Means, yeah, the brother's gonna bring out the word trench.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, that's the Greek word karax, and that's where you get the word karagma from. Because it was, because when you go into the word karagma, it means a pill or a stake, and they were piling and they were staking fences. Because when you take so many pales and stakes, like when you create fences, like if you ever built with fences, picket fences and things of that nature, it's nothing but multiple stakes that's aligned to fend or to control what's going on and what's going out, what's going in and what's going out of the specific area. So it's the same thing that the Romans did to Jerusalem during that siege. You got that?
Yeah, this is G5482, which is Karax. It says a pale or stake, a palisade.
Yeah, palisade.
A palisade or rampart.
Yep, a rampart. So that was a way that the Romans were controlling Jerusalem, because they took down the Israelites during that time, and not only did they take them down, they took all their resources, man. That's why when you go to the Ark of Titus, when you look at the Ark of Titus in Rome, which is still up to date, in Jerusalem, if I'm not mistaken, that's the headquarters of the Ark of Titus. You go to actually the Ark of Titus, where it's actually located. But when you go to the Ark of Titus and you look at it, you'll actually see so-called white people, Edomites, Idumeans, running out with the menorah, the precious treasures, the jewels of the temple. Because when they came and destroyed Jerusalem, they also took all the goodly pleasant materials that was in the temple. They ransacked the temple. That's the abomination that maketh itself desolate. And that abomination that maketh itself desolate is going to look to destroy this third temple, the one that Yahweh Shah was prophesying about, which is being structured and built right now, the house of David. You got some more on that?
It says the Ark of Titus is in Via Sacra, Italy.
So yeah, that Ark is in Italy. And like we said, like that you have here in Atlanta, which we have this big ark, and that's all to commemorate peace, so to speak, after war. That's to commemorate a victory. That was the purpose of the Ark of Titus. That was the time where they basically, the whole world was silent before them. All right, and they could establish an ark to remember and to reminisce about the victory that they won. And it's the same thing with Atlanta when you go into the origins of why this was actually created.
Yeah.
After the Union took down the Confederate, all right, you had the burning of Atlanta, all right, and later on in history, if I'm not mistaken, this was what year was this actually established?
1730.
Yeah, in
Georgia.
Well, I'm talking about the actual ark that they actually built.
Oh, 2008.
Yeah, they built it around 2008, but it's all to commemorate and to reminisce about the victories that they won, and to show basically the accomplishment.
Yeah, even he said it goes deeper than what people actually see in the city, because a lot of people that comes up here, they don't really go into it to the history of this statue. So
Yeah. I got something too.
I can keep you okay. And compass thee, okay, verse 43, for the days shall come upon thee that thy enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation.
Yeah, we got laid to the ground during that time, man. When you read about, which a lot of the main culprits to actually initiate that war too is the Zealots. The Zealots, the Sicarii, they were looking to fight against the Romans, sword for sword battle. And the Romans, they were known to carry and wield that sword. And that sword goes all the way back to Genesis, the 27th chapter, about the blessing that Esau was blessed with. Same thing with America. When America was established, and it started in 1776, but prior to 1776, you had all kind of slaves here, man. All right, the 1600s, you had Negro slaves in the Dominican. All right, which Apostle R went into 40% of Dominicans are actually Jake, man. Because the so-called white man, he would take those different Jakes from Spain, all right, from Europe, and they would import them here to actually work and till the land. That's why when we talked to this guy at the in the front of the museum, he was talking about indentured servants, whether they were blacksmiths, whether they were peasants. They were sent here to till and work for 5-7 years, do slave time, and then they would actually have rights to return to Europe.
Yeah,
now that could be the case of indentured service, but hardcore slavery, slaves weren't allowed to be free, man.
Right.
And that's how we know that we were the Israelites, because when you read Deuteronomy 28th chapter, it said that we would serve a slavery that would be harsher than any other nations. All right, it's not the same as serfs. The slavery that we went through is not the same as indentured servitude. Right. It's not the same as being a serf.
And when you debt free, you actually free.
Yeah.
You actually can start up and till your own land and come up. So it wasn't in the case for us though.
That's right. All right, and the so-called white man's been on our neck since 70 AD. You had Israelites that ran to the western coast of Africa after that siege, because all of them didn't get caught up in the siege of Jerusalem. They went to parts of Europe, they went to certain parts of Asia, they scattered to the four winds, but the cusp of them actually went to the west coast of Africa. You got that?
This is Matthew 24 and 15. I'm going to start at 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, and stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand.
Right, and that first abomination that maketh itself desolate was the Greeks. And that's how we became fully Gentiles, because when before Titus, actually you had Antiochus, or scholars or historians call him Antiochus Epiphanes. All right, he came and he ransacked the temple. All right, put pork on the altar. He made it where the Jews had to commit fornication. All right, they couldn't even pronounce themselves as Jews. They started to call themselves Greeks. And they started to involve themselves in the Greco-Roman style of life, the Olympics, gymnasiums, all right, the amphitheater, gladiatorian is
Colosseums.
Colosseums, All right, they were fully indoctrinated in that Greco-Roman style of life, and here, lo and behold, here today, America, Jake is doing the same thing, man.
Right.
Here in Atlanta is the epicenter of great superstars, of basketball players and things of that nature. You have the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it be having a Hall of Fame Jakes and different basketball organization teams.
You have the Olympics here.
Yeah, you have the Olympics here.
96.
And Jake is still caught up in that same Greco-Roman style of life, because the so-called white man did his job. That's why they commemorated, and we're gonna keep talking about this arc, man.
Yeah.
Because this is the crown of success.
Yeah.
This is the crown of victory.
Yeah,
This is the crown of the taking down of a nation. You got it.
It's like, and they got 2 olive branches on there too that represents peace. Who was the peace given to? It was given to Esau, the so-called white man.
That's right.
That's now ruling the world. That Ark of the Titus wasn't brought here by coincidence.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, oh, it looked good, we planted in this part of the city. Nah, it really is dealing with the sundials. It's like Georgia Guidestones. They got at a certain point, the sun come through certain holes and Georgia Guidestones. These elites, they know the history too about everything that they put in the land.
Yeah.
Like Olympus, that was in Greek. That wasn't in America. Founding fathers, they wasn't, well, people can't say they from Greece, they can say they from Europe, but really their line goes back to Greece. It goes back to Alexander the Great. So the elites, they know what they're doing, man, and inside of you people, but you people will understand. Right? Because, mainly our people, they fine.
Yeah, because you have the term hidden in plain sight. This is truly hidden in plain sight. You have individuals that come around, take pictures, they pose it in front of it. We here to break down strongholds. That's our sole purpose. After we expose, lift the skirt on this image, then we getting the hell on, man. This isn't a thing of celebration. We having cookouts and barbecues, bringing the family around to go to the area, sit and eat. Yeah. This is the thing where we come and we destroy these strongholds, which the scripture says in the law. Now, we can't physically chisel and break this statue down, get the hammers, all right, drills, and break this thing down. You'll be get citations for that, man. You get locked up.
You get locked in.
Destroying of property. All right, but we could do it in the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shah. We spiritually take down these strongholds.
Right? It starts with the mind. It's not a carnal warfare. It's a spiritual warfare.
Yep. Go back to 15. Yeah. All right, Matthew 24:15. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Verse 16. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains.
Yep. And the ones that was in Judea, they fled to the mountain, and that mountain was known as Masada. And during that, when they was in that mountain, you could go into the Josephus, you could go into these different books, and it goes into the history of what Jake was doing when they were being besieged by the Romans. All right, they were eating each other, cannibalism. Right? That's why when you read Deuteronomy 28th chapter, that was one of the curses that we had to suffer for breaking the law, statutes, and commandments. You continue.
And if I can add too, we were talking off camera how this is actually modern day Rome, and how this is when Jacob's trouble comes, it's going to be bigger than 70 AD. But we were talking about how this city that you see here is going to be besieged because you got a lot of loss around here. People think themselves to be a good case, but you actually got railroad systems that's going to link these people to these concentration camps and shut down the city, man. They only got a limited amount of stores here. This is a real nice part of the city. All right, the same thing that happened before then is going to happen now.
There's a lot of besieged forts around here, man. Like the brother Alpha Bosman, he went into like how the highways got these big tall gates on the highways. They said for accidents and stuff like that, but it's really not. It's really to quarantine you or to block you off getting out of this city.
And then what we talk about a lot is the pestilence, man. Like they show in that movie, The Contagion. So that's another way, Esau can trap the majority of the people in, man. Right. But I'm just going to continue. Matthew 24:16. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. 17. Let him which is on the rooftop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And I'm going to stop on 20. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days.
Yeah, the ones that would breastfeed, because it would be so hard to carry a child when you're on the run. All right, you would have to run a distance, and you would have to get away from armies, man. And that's why even the women during that siege, they were eating their children, man. Yeah, that's recorded. That's documented history that's laid in these different books that go on in the siege. And so why did the so-called white man create an ark that has such a bloody history? Because Atlanta, America, has the same bloody history as ancient Rome, if not bloodier, man.
Yeah, and Atlanta is it's a Greek goddess too.
Atlantis, yeah.
Yeah, Atlantis. She's a Greek goddess too. It's all Greco-Roman influences, memorials. Because these elite, they know their line goes back to Esau. Yep. I got a scripture.
Let me get our scripture. All right, let me go to verse 21. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be.
Yeah. Like it says in Job chapter 8, verse 8, it says, research of the forefathers, so to speak. And that goes into how, you got secular history written by historian Josephus. He goes into the details of how Jake was treated by the Roman Empire, how Titus didn't let up, he didn't show no mercy. It says that in the scriptures too. It says Esau didn't show no mercy to us.
Yeah, those Romans were real oppressors, man.
Yeah.
They would rape the men and the women. Same thing with America, with these plantation owners. They would have you work heavily, and Rome was known what? Through those gladiatorial rings, where they would center all those jakes for entertainment. And what was the entertainment? Them killing each other, man.
Yep.
All right.
Jake do that today.
And Jake does that today.
Jake had a lot of fame too. Gladiators, they had a lot of fame in those days.
Right.
And he showed it on that movie Gladiator.
Right. Yeah, because that was a Jake.
Yep.
And the same thing, like in these different sports arenas, you have these football players, they're going high speeds and ramming each other's heads. Now, of course, they're protected by a helmet, but for the most part, a lot of these football players get concussions and stuff.
Right.
After their post seasons and things of that nature, they start bugging out. Same thing with boxers. Yeah. Same thing with these basketball players. They have a lot of bone problems. They have a lot of muscle spasms and things of that nature. Because that's why they have the average, what's the average football career? 4 years. 4 years for the average football career. And after that average, they might throw them a couple $1 million, but their bodies is all broke up. They done destroyed themselves. And what? The rich got richer.
I saw that in the movie Concussion.
Yeah.
Concussion.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. And let one of them football players start speaking about the truth. They're gonna go back to that old ancient world way and kill them up. It's like because they don't want another rise of Messiah. They don't want another rise of Septimius.
Severus,
yeah. Severus, Niger. They don't want those. Yeah. They don't want those great men to rise up. And they know those great men resides in the nation of Israel, who they took down.
And that's why they want to censor this truth. And one thing the so-called white man does is he waters down history. All right, like this is a watered down image now. People don't actually embrace the bloody history that came with this art. The sports arena, that's very watered down. All right, basketball players, when you go into the origins, like we just said, they were killing each other, man, in those coliseums, man. It's a lot of history. And it was bad for Jake. But now Jake is getting thrown a couple $1 million, and they think that's the best thing to make it.
They said back in the day, it didn't used to be normal people going to basketball games. Nothing but bars, bankers and stuff like that. Edomites with suit and ties.
Yep. So you got something I'll bring this up. Okay, this is Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstone and grind meal. Uncover thy locks,
make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing right now. We're uncovering Esau. We're exposing his truth, because he really tells a lot of lies. Like he's perfect, he's innocent. He even got Jewish coats. You know, they want to be like 12 tribes of Israel, the real children of Israel. It's written about too in Isaiah. They says they nest among the stars, meaning they home amongst us.
Yeah, and Obadiah.
Yeah, because we the true stars, but at the same time, we're exposing them, man. We're exposing Esau's about his wickedness.
Yeah, and like every city, you got statues that commemorate, you know, what Esau is trying to set up and what he's trying to do. Like the brother said, like the deacon said, it's hidden in plain sight, man. Like people just think this is just some architecture design and it adds to the property value. But Esau's trying to tell you something, man. Esau's trying to tell you what he did before and what he's trying to do now. But we know, according to, you know, Job 20:23, when he's about to fill his belly, the Most High is going to intervene, man.
Yeah. You really look at their history, you will actually see a murder. Now they got R. Kelly and Bill Cosby on blast, and certain
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson on blast. After they did,
What about the founding fathers?
Right.
You know, these George Washington. You know, all these individuals that signed the Declaration.
Yeah.
You know, those were all devils, man.
Yeah.
What about Andrew Jackson, the Indian killer, General Custer? All these goddamn devils, man. That these different streets, these different roads is named after. Ponce de Leon, all right, Francisco Pizarro, Hernando Cortez, General Day.
Even the guy inside the store, even the guy inside the museum was talking about Button Gwinnett. And he signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and that's a county here north of Atlanta, man. So you gotta look into your own city, whether you live here in Atlanta.
Emmanuel Jenkins killed in these cities. There's no rest for people.
I was saying, no matter what city you live in, you gotta research these things. What are these streets named after? Who founded this? You gotta look into the a lesson of luminaries. Like for one, you got here the Woodruff Center. All right, that was named after Robert Woodruff, basically a two-time loser Edomite who got the Coca-Cola company handed over to him after he started, you know, failing school and snorting too many lines.
Yeah, and when you go into that Coca-Cola was first supposed to be diagnosed as a drug, man.
Yeah, first dope boy.
It had cocaine in it. Cocaine, that's where you have the term Coca-Cola. Coca is cocaine and cola is cola nut, man. You would mix those two concoctions, and that was supposed to relieve stomach aches. It was supposed to relieve all kind of ailments and symptoms. But he seen that he was making so much money from that style of from that basically selling that they legalized it and they mass produced it and they watered it down, you know. But see, all these different things, like the brother is saying, you got to go into these things, man. You got to go into these streets. You got to go into these cities. You got to go into these states, parks. Because of this, each and every plot and land has some deep-rooted history to it.
Yeah, like in New York, they got a memorial with names fully listed of Jake and of both Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom. So-called Native going into the killings of them, how they just slaughtered Jake over there by the World Trade Center in certain parts of New York. Right. All of them. Right. So this devil, he's been exposed on all levels. And Jake got to wake up, but he ain't gonna be exposed to you until the day that the Lord unleashed the devil.
I got a little bit more. Take the millstone and grind meal. Uncover thy locks. Make bare the leg. Uncover the thigh. Pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered. Yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, but I will not meet thee as a man. And the ones that's uncovering the thigh, making bare the leg, is the prophets. Starting off with the apostle on down, man. We're the ones that's truly revealing. And you got other Israelites that bring out this information. You know, they don't bring it out to the depth in the spirit of this great millstone. But on a worldwide level, you got these whistleblowers that go into Jekyll Island. They go into the origins of the Illuminati. Like when we were talking to this guy, you know, we're gonna keep speaking about him because we just had a long dialogue with him. You know, he knows a couple of things because he's over the historical district. So he got to be deep with that history. The scripture says, children of this world are wiser than the children of light. But we was asking him about Jekyll Island, He was like, yeah, you know, real Edomites. Do you know who built Jekyll? You know, the founders basically in Jekyll Island.
He went into detail.
Yeah, he went into the Vanderbilts. He went into the Rothschilds.
Rockefellers.
He went into the Oppenheimers. And what he said, if you take everybody in Jekyll Island, and you basically, what he said, if you take
everybody in the zone of Jekyll Island, the resorts over there, it says
they make up 1/6 of the population of the world's riches, man.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
That's
and Jekyll Island's not even big like that, man.
Yep. And they made a lot of backdoor deals too.
J.P. Morgan.
Yep, J.P. Morgan. They met about taking the gold standard from the dollar.
Yep. They
and
bought America.
Yep. They fueled World War I too.
That's right.
Because it's all about war with the elite. They really did. They're lesser luminaries, which accomplished or executed the elite agenda, just like the Napoleon War.
Yep.
Esau has stock market exchange even in those times. Just like we were the first on the stock market exchange.
Right. Oh yeah, you can get that by that traffic.
Yep.
Yeah, because America, like they just, Atlanta was a major commerce zone. That's why Atlanta got burned down, because the Union, when they came and fought the Confederate, they had to hit their commerce areas, wherever they get their imports, wherever they get their guns, their supplies. They had to cut off the supply routes, burn this whole place down, so to speak, you know, tear it down and rebuild it back up.
Yeah, and the reason being because they was rebelling against
the power that be.
Yeah, the monarchies, the kings over there in Europe. Yeah, the elite family. Because the elite family didn't want the greenback dollar and stuff like that to have power behind it. Because during that time, Abraham Lincoln, they tried to, what started with Andrew Jackson, they tried to take away the debt from America. Because they know they had to serve from Europe. They know there was servitude over there in Europe, and they got over here to be free too as well. Not only to colonize it, because there were certain generals from the elite that colonized the Americans. That's why they had the American Revolutionary War.
Yep.
It was all banking off the elite family. That's why America's in debt now. In debt to who though? Who is America in debt to? Not only these countries, but ultimately to the Rothschilds.
And it's debt per citizen. Each and every citizen has a high level of debt, and they're going to use you as collateral, man. Right. That's why you jakes, you go into war, and after you leave the war, you come out dead broke, because you're a debt slave. The government feels that they have no, you don't, basically, they don't owe you shit, man. Yeah, this is a major corporation. They profit off of your what? Social Security? Your birth certificate. They profit off of you. That's why you read Revelation 18 with the destroying of America. It speaks about the souls of men, slaves and souls of men, because they're harvesting souls here in America, man.
I think the average person is like $70,000 in debt when they come out the womb. So, hey man, whether you a Jake or you a Edomite, man, you a debt slave.
Yeah, they own you. They own you anyway.
Yep.
I mean, that's a whole other segment, but it's all ties into the memorial of this Titus and other memorials too that's hidden in plain sight.
Y'all have anything for our friends?
I got this limitation.
This is Ezekiel 28:3. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thy understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. Right, and not only was the elites profiting off of America, they was also profiting off of Africa. They was profiting off of the Middle East, Asiatic lands. That's why America is all about what? War. All right, when they came to America, the Europeans, starting off with Christopher Columbus, he came in the spirit of war, man, and started to name. That's why you have countries like Colombia, all right, which that's named after Christopher Columbus. You have DC, Columbus Day, the District of Columbus. All these different things is written or etched in American history to commemorate the death of you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because it's not just a black thing. This isn't just to commemorate the falling of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because it was just Judah, Benjamin, and Levi that fell. It's also to commemorate the fall of you Latinos and you Native Americans, man. Right. That's why you natives over there in Oklahoma you know, out there in Midwest and things of that nature, you ain't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out either, man.
Yeah. Jake over there in White Clay, Nebraska, and what's that other reservation up there? Up there, that other reservation up there in North Dakota, man, is bugged out, drinking yourself to death, man.
Drinking alcohol,
clean water,
drinking rubbing alcohol and things of that nature. You know, you have no rights, you have no liberty. That's why we said you got to go into the origins, even in Florida. That was your homeland. You were living lavishly, you Seminole Indians, which here in America, in Atlanta, Georgia, you had the 5 uncivilized native nations. You had the Creek, you had the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, Cherokee, you had the Seminoles, and this was a paradise, man. This is part of Eden. Yeah. But the so-called white man came and destroyed these different lands, man. And he rebuilt it as a corporation, as a major conglomerate.
Right. Everything he touched now is supposed to be civilized. Yeah. That's what he said throughout the whole history.
Mm-hmm. I got a little bit more. Without wisdom and without understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches.
Trafficking, sex trafficking, arms dealing, human trafficking, drug trafficking. All right, like we said, like I just said, arms dealing. Because when you had these different railroads going back and forth through America, it was for the sake of products. All right, and you had to have individuals to cultivate the land to actually build this land up agriculturally. Who was that? The Negroes and Jamaicans, man.
Yeah, they say the Chinese man built up the railroad track.
Which a lot of them did. A lot of them were here to be slaves too. Yeah. But that's not the big deal. Is Jake, man.
Yeah, Jake. They got reparations for that.
Yeah.
We didn't get nothing.
That's right. Because you had something known as cash crops. We would till for cotton. We had Jake in Jamaica, you know, chopping sugar cane and things of that nature. Tobacco fields all throughout the northeast region, and they would profit off of all that. And they still, these corporations, a lot of these corporations are still thriving today off of slavery, man. Billion dollar conglomerates, man. But what about our so-called reparations? Which we ain't asked for reparations. We want blood, man. But what about that though? The 2 acres in what's that?
40 acres in a mule.
40 acres in a mule. You know, Esau ain't looking to give you shit.
Esau will give you one of these lofts over here and charge you $2,000 a month. That's what he'll give you.
That's right.
All right. And thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches, which is the pride, the pomp. Therefore thus saith the Lord power, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of God. Behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations.
That's Russia, that's China, Iran. These different nations that's looking to make war with America, the ones that were weak in Isaiah the 14th chapter, and now they're becoming strong nations. How are they becoming strong? Their military might. Right. All right, their fighter jets, they're updating their technology, and they're making backhand deals, and they're basically branching off, or they're detaching from the American standard and the American style of life. That's why these different nations are doing what? Dropping the dollar, man. And all this is still segueing to Rome, that deadly wound, because Rome failed. Rome failed and that deadly wound got healed, but now this is the time for this is the finale, man. The final fall of this kingdom.
That's really the main point.
Lamentations chapter 4, verse 21. Rejoice and be glad, O God of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shall make thyself naked.
So rejoice, in these this Arch Titus remake right here. Rejoice in these different buildings that you dedicated to the destruction of our people, because it's going to be your time, man. Like the scripture says in Revelation 13, 9, and 10, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity, man. Right. All right, like in Jeremiah 30 and 16, those that spoiled us, you're going to get spoiled, man.
And it's the great Passover. This is going to be a great commemoration throughout a commemoration of the downfall of the damn Edomites, right? So-called white people, and the rest of the nations too. It's going to go on forever, and you're going to celebrate.
Yeah, we're going to have our plaques, so to speak. We're going to have things to represent the fall of you Edomites. We're going to have our celebrations. Because even with Jerusalem history, Israelite history, we had celebrations to the fall of our enemy. You had Purim, you had we have Passover,
Feast of dedication.
Hanukkah, which is the Feast of Dedication.
Yep.
You know, and the so-called white man established his kingdom off of the fall of his enemies. You have Columbus Day. You got the 4th of July. You got Thanksgiving. You know, all these different celebrations, and the list goes.
Tossing out, Xing out our Lord and Savior.
Christmas, Xing out, Lord and things of that nature. But that's all Babylonian, that's a Babylonian worship, so to speak.
Yeah.
Worshiping the sun god, worshiping their gods and false idols. And he turned everything upside down, so everything has to be turned right side up, man.
Right.
And that's why Yahushua is going to crack them clouds, and he's going to bring war upon you nations, man. Some more on that.
Verse 22, the punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion.
Yeah, we embrace the fact, and we accept, I would say, we accept the fact that we got conquered. This is a fact. We fell as a nation multiple times, man. 70 AD, 1600s, during the time of the Greeks, time of the Persians, time of the Babylonians. But the thing is, this is the last of our captivity. Our curses are being fulfilled.
By way of the Lord going upon the cross for the elect's sake, first and foremost. And now, according to prophecy, it says, he will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thy iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins.
Which the sins are what? The transgressions. And when you read Revelation 18, it said that the sins reached up to the heavens, man. All right? You have everything that's dying off. Not only are we being poisoned as a nation, you have, which I just sent these brothers an article the other day about bats, man. The bats are dying off on an all-time high, man. And they said that's going to destroy the agriculture because bats are known to eat a lot of beetles and things that actually prey upon the crops and things of that nature. So what is that doing? That's enlarging beetle production. That's enlarging all kind of insect production to continue to destroy the fields. So they said bats actually help the U.S. save $1.4 billion, man. How much more the bees? How much more all these different insects that the world needs to actually thrive? And the so-called white man, which is death, he's destroying all these things, so death is going to come unto him. He's a suicidal maniac, and he has to be snatched out of power, man.
Yeah, he got that power and money to just sit back and do these things. You got to have leisure. He has the leisure time to do it. He don't work like us, 9 to 5, busting his ass off. Nah, he got money and power to sit back and do these things. That saved him how much? Billions of dollars? Chilling backs.
Yep.
Man, this devil got to be taking out power.
That's
We're
right.
doing it by way of the Spirit of God, by some other shots.
That's right. Tearing down these strongholds, like it tells you in Corinthians, the 10th chapter, man. 2 Corinthians, if I was not mistaken. You know? It says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but spiritual, man. So we, through the Spirit, we're hacking down this kingdom, hacking down these strongholds. Lord willing, we'll do more on location and expose these different parts of Atlanta. You know, you got Jekyll Island, through the Spirit, we did Stone Mountain. We go into that history. You got Rome, Georgia. You got all kind of history out here. Athens,
Georgia.
you know. But that's it.
Yeah. So this is just another part of, America just being in the spirit of Rome.
Right.
So they never died away. Never died away. Esau is still living.
That's right.
Okay, all right. So with that, we want to give all praise and honor and glory to
Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Hashem, Rakakadash.
Form the elect. Shalom.
Shalom.